Good afternoon and welcome. Today is January 27th, or actually 28th, 2026, and we are here in the Larimer County Commissioners Conference Room for Larimer County for a work session for our quarterly update on the progress of our 2024 through 2028 strategic plan here in the conference room. I'm Larimer County Commissioner Jody Shai-Bagnali, Chair of the Board of County Commissioners, and I welcome you. Today at the table, I'm joined by my colleagues, Larimer County Commissioner John Gonfalez and Commissioner Kristen Stevens. Also joining us at the table is our County Manager, Lorenda Volker. Good afternoon, Lorenda. And we also have a lot of folks in the room that will be joining us at the table, and I'm going to let our amazing PBS Director, Josh Fudge, our Performance, Budget, and Strategy Director, and have him introduce our guests. We have some great things to share today, and I look forward to learning more. And so, Josh, I want to turn this over to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Once again, my name is Josh Fudge, Director of Performance, Budget, and Strategy for the county, kind of shepherding the progress of the strategic plan through and really helping coordinate the work of all the people you see behind me, plus others. So I just want to take a moment to thank all the strategic plan objective team leaders, many of whom will meet today, and all of their colleagues and others who are helping to push this forward. So as usual, we're kind of reversing the order from the last time we met. We'll start with Goal 4 and work our way up the chain. So county operations is first, then Goal 3, natural and built environment, then Goal 2, quality of life, Goal 1, resilient, equitable, and engaged community, and then finally discussion and next steps. There are quite a few objectives or sub-objectives that are complete, and those will be marked with that little target, and then a couple of items that need direction that we will get to. So to kick it off with Goal 4, which is really centered on county operations, our objective team leader, Julie Elser, who works for PBS, is unable to join us today, so I am able to discuss this particular objective. The first 1A is really around using artificial intelligence and making sure the county uses it in the right way. May have been aware, all county employees hopefully are aware that Google Gemini, the AI tool that comes with Google, was rolled out early this week. There was an email to county staff this past Monday, and a demo of Gemini tools and other things was given to the data users group back on January 22nd. Also, as part of this effort, there is a B-board page for our county staff to review and take a look at how to use Gemini, the tools, best use practices, things like that. So that is the progress on this, and we may see this actually be considered completed and operationalized in future presentations. So any questions on that particular sub-objective?
Like there's no questions, so we'll let you proceed. Thank you, Josh.
Sure. So sub-objective 1B is to strengthen customer relationships between support services departments like mine, human resources, finance, those types of things, and their customer departments. This sub-objective is also completed and operationalized. It basically consisted of a survey and some user groups, focus groups to kind of talk about how some of the internal services relate to customers. It really focused on sort of education about how some of these services work, why they operate the way that they do, making sure that we provide additional information about rates charged for these types of things, especially at budget time. So we've started adding a little of that. We did that for the 26 budget process, and I think there will be more. But basically now this sub-objective is complete and operationalized. Seeing no questions, for continuing objective 1, sub-objective 1C is related to security. This group took a look at all the policies related to physical security, cybersecurity, things of that nature, did a lot of cleanup, clarifying roles since those policies were either created or last updated. There's one more thing that the team may work on, which is as part of the access control project, it's replacing all the door readers and things like that across the county. There will be a new process for how to manage the fobs that employees get and contractors get and guests get and things of that nature. And so this group may be used as kind of a sounding board as that process and procedure is developed. So that's kind of the next step for this particular sub-objective. And then finally, for sub-objective 1D, community indicators and key performance measures, This group has been doing a lot of work, and I wish Julie was here to talk about the great work that she's been doing. But I just want to advance to the next slide. And they have been looking at and helping departments and programs develop new key performance measures and really starting to group them instead of by service area, more around county themes. So there may be services and programs in different service areas that really kind of do a similar thing. And so the preliminary themes that they have come up with is sort of the first is how the county works, which is really kind of related to those support services things and some other pieces and sort of how we get things done, And then there's a subcategory like behind the scenes, that's the support services items. Community connections, so things like connecting with the community, like through public affairs, extension, the ranch, sort of those outreach, some of those types of programs. Financial stewardship, obviously the treasurer, our finance department, and then the budget office, performance, budget, and strategy. The next theme is caring for our spaces, and that's really kind of around the built and natural environments, so roads and buildings, how are we doing at maintaining the assets that we have, environmental stewardship. You see there some of the things related to climate and environmental things like natural resources, solid waste, facilities extension, and those things. Community safety, again, that's obviously public safety areas, fostering safety and upholding dignity. Programs like CJA, behavioral health, some of the alternative programs in the district attorney's office. Strengthening safety through prevention and preparedness. So that's some programs in human services, emergency management, sheriff's office, and then law and justice, some programs within the sheriff's office and the DA. Finally, supporting our neighbors. Some of the subcategories are building a strong community, economic empowerment, and community services and resources. And so the vision here would be instead of, say, support services or public safety coming for a performance measure work session, it would be these programs and departments, for instance, on how the county works. Sort of so we can see those all together in really one sort of grouping of services, if you will. So these are the themes and subcategories that this group has come up with. And so we just wanted to provide maybe a chance to ask questions or provide feedback, and then this could evolve perhaps in the next quarterly work session.
Thanks, Josh. And I appreciate that we had gotten to look at this a little bit. So I think we might have some questions here. I'll start with Commissioner Stevens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I actually like having things categorized by theme. I think it's actually more understandable to the public too. And there's a lot of services that we have that sort of have those commonalities, and I think so. Putting them together, will it affect So it may affect how we see people come forward to us to present those, but will there be anything like on our web presence that also reflects that too? Will that sort of change with data that we're sharing? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, they would be grouped kind of like how they are now by service area into these themes instead.
I do think it's less wonky for the public, and it right, because they want the information they want, but they don't know what things are called necessarily, or they sort of see us providing all these services and they don't necessarily distinguish between them. So I really like this concept. I think it's really smart, and I think it makes it sort of a way to approach the data in a more human-centered way, I guess I might put it. So thank you. I don't have any questions, but I just think this is a good idea.
Commissioner Kafalis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Agreed that I think this is a great idea, the way it's been revisioned perhaps around these themes. So I'm very supportive. A couple of questions I have. One is, can you say a little bit more about the process for coming up with this framework?
Mm-hmm.
That would be my first question. Then I have just a couple others.
Okay, because I have I have a few as well. So.
Yeah, so Julie Elster, again, who works in PBS, is the objective team leader, and so she has a team of 4 or 5 who have met several times, really going back to 2024, to start to group do that iterative work of grouping programs. Really, the very first step was finding out what data do we have that can be measured. What's reasonably, we don't want to create tons of new data, things that we have to spend a lot of time and money collecting. We want to know what's available now, what makes a good performance measure as opposed to an output. And so through that iterative work, some of these themes started to develop. And so they've really discussed this, I'd say, especially over the past year or so. They've also worked a lot with departments and program managers themselves to try to see where best these things fit. So this has been in the works for quite a while.
Great. Just one more. Thank you, Josh. That's helpful. Thank you for answering my question. My second question would be, or is, so how does this work? And I think it ties a little bit into what Commissioner Stevens was asking about website and all of that. But how will this complement, enhance our need to send out, through public affairs and other entities, proactive messages about what the county does and how we're actually doing good things? Because, as you're well aware, recent surveys and information suggest that despite our best efforts, folks don't really know what the county does, and they are not convinced that we are good stewards of the financial resources. So
Yeah.
how will this work, performance standards and all that, complement what I think we need to be doing, and that is having a comprehensive outreach plan, proactive? The county does good things.
Yeah.
Thank you,
So
sir.
my first thought is this will be presented in a pretty easy to view graphical way as opposed to a bunch of dry numbers and things like that. I think the current performance measurement, the portion of the website, I think does a pretty good job. It's just, again, grouped by service area. So I think this will enable, maybe as we focus on specific issues, you'll be able to point to, when it comes to caring for spaces, our environmental stewardship, here's all the things that we do and here's how we're performing at those. So it'll make it easier to communicate on specific issues, I think.
Just a quick follow-up, and then I'll be done. You prompted a suggestion, and that is that storytelling is really powerful. So maybe it's not for this, but in future iterations, I would think that, telling stories about how these things have made a difference, and in particular, how they've made a difference in people's lives, because I believe that's what we're supposed to be doing. So I think incorporating stories about, if it's the natural environment stewardship, how has that benefited folks, or how has that benefited nature, that sort of thing. Thank you. That's
Yeah,
all.
and that's a good comment, because I think when we get to goal one, when we get to the very objective Michelle Bird's, telling the story with more storyboards type web presence and things like that, this can fit easily in that.
First, I'd just like to comment, when we, over the years sitting here in these chairs, as we're getting great reporting and from staff on the performance measures, when we look up there, the key indicators are all on one maybe slide. It's work that you guys put in, and then we're important indicators, but we always kept saying, what do you think you should measure, especially like emergency management, and because it was maybe old measures that maybe aren't relevant, or not relevant, but maybe aren't as useful now, or maybe it's not really telling the story about the, like you said, the income, the impacts, but also the outcomes, and there are certain things that maybe we should be looking at differently. And so we've had this conversation, and so I know it's great to see that staff, this came from a staff level, and you guys all kind of, I like that part of it, is that you all have things you want to measure and look and share. And I think it really seems like you also thought maybe how we approach the public, which we've been having, how does this relate? We can sit here and say, hey, they're making all their measures, but does that really, share what impacts it has on the community and how we're taking care of folks? So I really like this. I like the language behind it, because it seems like this would be easily understandable to anyone in the public. And I think it can get really confusing, because we do a lot of things here at the county. So I'm really fascinated how you got that into 4 theme areas. I just find that amazing.
Yeah.
and also just the subcategories, when it really, I was thinking you could easily do 20 of these, right? And I think, I feel like the public does have a good view of the county, but maybe they don't understand, they have confusion because they're not sure what the cities are paying for, what the county does, and overlap. And so I think it's not maybe, it's not really a distrust of that we're not spending the funds, prudently or being good stewards, because I think once they see more of these things, like, wow, you guys do so much with so little, is what we hear. So I think it's that we just need to communicate with all these things and show how it impacts their daily lives. I think that's, when we have Larimer County 101, it's one of those things, and I say out when I have the community conversations, well, we impact your daily life, and this is how. And I think people are like, oh, I didn't know that. So I think this is really, would be a nice, easy way for folks to navigate some of that. So I want to commend you all for just this really innovative approach, but I shouldn't be surprised. You all do these amazing efficiencies and innovative ideas. And I really like how this all came together. My question is, so the first question, two questions. I think I see all 10 elected offices from the county in this, but maybe it's not completely, I see some names, but I'm assuming I see the DA, but we have everyone in there, but maybe it's not really spelling that out, but all 10 offices are kind of in there. So I see that, right? And with the sheriff and the coroner and the assessor, and I'm not sure, I'm assuming maybe the treasurers would be, I don't know,
Yep.
did they come? And so I just wanted to
Yeah.
ask that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, it may not be glaring out, but it seems like they're all, but also that shows kind of how they're all integrated. So I think that's another thing.
Yeah.
But I do wonder, when we see human services a couple of times, they might have to come present more than once, or they're all going to be together on the same day. And I'm just wondering how that looks, because I'm wondering also with knowing how busy things are getting with
Yeah.
certain departments, they're okay with coming. Are you looking to have maybe these all done in one work session, or would it, because I could see how there are two different categories for like human services, so I'm just curious how that would be for them to have to come twice and present.
Yeah, that's a good question. And right now, that's the vision, is that, there'd be one work session for caring for our spaces measures. We haven't really finalized that yet. I mean, it could look different. It could look the same that it is now, like you say, just to have folks there, one time. So that's kind of still to be determined. Just go back to your first question too, and your question too, Commissioner Kafalis, is Julie and the team really did a great job interviewing the departments at the beginning and really having some good discussions about why some of these things are done. And those, I think, will come out in some new measures that you'll see. I mean, the measures we have now are pretty good. A lot of them will continue on, but I participated in a few of those meetings, and there really was, and it goes back to the budget process too, really good discussion of why we do this, and so how can we measure to get to the why, if that makes sense. So there's more to come on kind of how this will functionally look, once we start reporting and things on that, but I just want to add that too. So.
Great. Well done, and I think I certainly support this, and I think. Thank you. I really support this. I think this is great, and I do want to kind of encourage us, I know that's a lot, but if we could put that all in one work session, it might tell also the story from like how the county works all the way to the end. It might just help it all into one.
Yeah.
But I don't know how that looks, because I know sometimes we have 2 of those or 3 of those. So I'm very curious, and I'm excited to see how this progresses. Thank you.
Cool.
Any other questions? Lorena, did you want to add anything?
One of the things I like about this is the thinking of it from a customer point of view. What makes it easy for my mother-in-law to understand, for my neighbor to understand, because you don't need government until you need government, and then you don't know what it's called. And so I think it's actually fine that Human Services maybe is in more than one and would be more than one presentation, because they do different kind of work. Some fit better in some categories and some fit better in others. In some cases, we're helpers, in some cases, we're regulators. And so splitting that up so people can see that work differently, I think is also going to be a good thing. And it's different leaders in that area that will come and reply. So a lot of good thought has gone into this, and I think the customer perspective is what makes it so powerful. And it'll have to evolve and change over time as county government does. So I think that's the point of this. How do we do it better and different?
I appreciate those points, and that really kind of drives home about that there's different roles in human services. So I'm just used to them all being here at the same time. So I think that is a great point. Thank you for adding that. All right, Josh, hope you did you get what you needed?
Yes, yep, and I'll follow up with Julie as well. So objective 2 in goal 4 is to collaborate and coordinate with partners and stakeholders. The first item was optimizing grant opportunities, and this sub-objective is operationalized and complete. We have engaged with 2 firms to help us identify and apply for grant opportunities to really, and one really helped drive kind of a strategy, a priority of what types of grants are we going after, what are we really focused on? And so that, I think, has gone really well. We've gotten at least 2 or 3 grants that I remember as a result of working with them. Now, it's not to say we wouldn't have gotten it if we hadn't worked with them, but they really enabled us to fill out that grant process and create a good presentation that probably helped us get it. So the other thing that it's doing is we're having a regular meeting, I think one Friday a month, where a lot of us are on a call with them, and they can explain kind of some of what's happening at the federal level. It's not up to the minute unless it happens like on a Thursday, but so there's good kind of coordination across folks a little bit more. So that is operationalized. The second, co-location with community partners. So there is a document that will show kind of where and which services can go to which areas. And our objective team leader is not here for this one today, so I'll kind of pinch hit. But they have a document that they can use to kind of track all the available locations for our different programs to set up shop and be there. And so they've shared that with communication staff and all the relevant departments. And so they're going to kind of determine, okay, who gets access to that and how do we use it, sort of the process, like how does it stay updated, things like that. So that is still very much in process. And then just the final 2 sub-objectives or objectives, the facilities master plan. This was the first one where we were able to say it was complete. This was updated, I want to say, last year sometime. So that was a very specific deliverable, and so that is done. And then objective 3 around supporting and developing leadership. That team did some good work in kind of inventorying how do we support our leadership in becoming more effective? How do we encourage a much wider candidate pool for when we are advertising for jobs and things like that? And so we've started working with human resources just to say, okay, here's where some gaps have been identified. They've filled us in on kind of how those can be they can be filled too. So this one is done. So any questions on goal 4?
Commissioner Stevens.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. With the co-location with community partners, are we largely talking about human services, or are there other departments that are co-located?
In general, yeah, but not just, and we're trying to see if we can maybe expand past that too. So, yeah, good question. Okay. So for goal 3, our natural and built environment, the first sub-objective was identifying a long-term sustainable funding source for capital projects. I think this one will be complete when next we meet. The Magellan and Chamber of Commerce information on the campaign for the ballot initiative 1A this past November, that will be provided to you at the February retreat, and sort of what lessons were learned and which direction do we want to go from that, if any. And so I think when we meet it in the second quarter, this one will be considered complete because we finished that effort. Kind of what comes next will be separate. For strengthening, sub-objective 1B, strengthening schedule coordination with partners. This one is on hold a little bit because the replacement of the system that would be used to do this is in our IT steering committee queue, waiting for IT resources to basically do this IT project. And so once that gets underway or is completed, then in general, we'll start to figure out, okay, now that we have our new system, how do we actually do the coordination with our partners? Can we talk to other municipalities and things like that? So that is to be determined. And also, the new county engineer will be starting, I think, here in the next few weeks or so. And so she'll be able to provide some input on maybe how this moves forward as well. And then finally, sub-objective 1C, enhancing regional transportation. Our capacity to contribute to this was largely defined by Initiative 1A. And so again, now that that's been completed, we kind of know what resources we have or maybe don't have. And so this one is basically considered complete and operationalized. There's really, we're kind of at where we're at. So any questions on objective 1?
Commissioner Stevens.
Yeah, I don't, not a question, but I will say that on Friday, last Friday, I went down to Colorado Springs to look at the Pikes Peak Regional Rural Transportation Authority. Some really interesting things that we learned about how they're funding projects in their region. And so I think while this is complete, and I agree that the 1A sort of kind of maybe shut the door on some of that a bit, I also think that there's other, I mean, just so the public knows, I guess, we're not shutting the door on how we're funding transportation, and that there are other models out there for funding transportation. And so I think that at the retreat and as we go forward, we're going to really look at, because it's not like our road concerns or needs are going away. And so all I want to say is that I think that there's additional information that I've gleaned that I want to share with everybody. And I think that, thinking about our county needs holistically, there are a lot of needs that we have. And so I guess this just may return in a different form, maybe not as part of the strategic plan, but it's certainly something that we're thinking about. So.
Okay.
All right. Moving on to objective 2, which is developing a sustainable built environment. This is the project dashboard for this particular item, and so I will ask our objective team leader, Heidi Pruis, to join us and give an update on this one.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Heidi Pruis, Office of Sustainability and Climate. I put this slide up here in particular to take a picture of the strategic plan dashboard in case you didn't know it was there. It is. It's awesome. Okay. And I thought it was worth highlighting just an update with regard to where we've come since the strategic plan was adopted. You could see on the first, well, maybe you can, I don't know, if you zoom back up, the graph has about half of our actions are completed, which is outstanding. This group has been very, very active. I think in the next year or so, probably the speed at which we are able to complete these actions may decrease a little bit because we're onto some harder issues to address. But regardless, I thought I would just list for you some of these things that have been completed. And you can see on this slide, and if you visit the dashboard, there's lots of hot links here. So members of the community can go, they can visit and see what these outcomes have been. They can read them themselves, use them, and that sort of thing. So some of the things that have been completed in 2025 include a commercial building energy efficiency navigator's guide for our commercial sector, an EV charging station installation guide, again for businesses. We've updated our building codes as part of the land use codes. Rebate programs for the electric equipment to improve air quality have been put forth to the community and well utilized. We have completed an air quality and water quality inventory of programs across our region, which is also linked here, and folks can visit that on the website. That's a really awesome tool in that it also links to our partners and their programs with regard to air quality and water quality. We have updated the structure for spill prevention within the municipal separate storm sewer system, MS4 program, for water quality, which that structure needed a little bit updating, and that's been completed. And we've completed the water master plan. So, there's been a lot of activity going on here. This is a subset of some of the items that are in Climate Smart Future Ready program, but some of these are not. They're in addition to that work that's going on there. So just kudos to the team who's working on this. Halfway done.
Halfway done.
Yep. That's the only update I have for you.
Thank you, Heidi. Any questions? I have one quick one. Sorry, Heidi, I'm not letting you off the hook. I just pulled up this strategic website, so thanks for that reminder. That will go in my monthly newsletter. So I'm curious, when you talk about the overlap in EV charging and kind of with our climate smart, future ready plan, and I look at this, but I was just going to look up, is there also on these strategic plan dashboard, maybe links to that other thing? I was just trying to look for it really quick, and I'm just curious if that's there in the public that are listening, because that's another amazing dashboard that we have, and I think that would, I don't know if that link is there to kind of help folks who like to dive into things
Thank you
like I
for
do.
that.
Yeah.
Yes, the link is on the main, this is a zoom in of, if you click on the sustainable built environment category, you get this graphic that shows more information. But before you get here, if you just go to the strategic plan on the county's website, it'll bring you to all of the things that you're talking about today. And on that website, there is a link to the Climate Smart Future Ready dashboard. I will just mention that that dashboard right now houses 2024 data. We are in the middle of trying to update for 2025. And so the next update that you'll receive with regard to the Climate Smart Future Ready program will be an update of the dashboard and our 2025 results.
One more question, sorry, but back to the theme of, you're proving my point about if the county, if folks knew about all the things, there comes the dashboard, yay. Took me a while for it to get there, but it's there. If they knew all these things, people would like, oh, man, the county is doing amazing things with little. One of the work sessions we had with you, with the intern, was showing the investment of the money that we had put in as commissioners or as a county for the whatever you.
The cost-benefit analysis.
Cost-benefit analysis, and the amazing outcome of almost 1 to
One
9?
1 to 2.5 to
Yeah.
maybe 7, yeah.
I'm trying to do the math in my head. Yeah. Is that somewhere, I mean, that feels like that would fit into the strategic plan somewhere with, I don't know where it is, budget, or I mean, I just feel like that's information that maybe the public should also, in case they didn't see that, I've been talking about it, I can't figure out where it is right now, but I've been carrying it with me everywhere to like, look at this. And I'm curious how that could integrate on the dashboard, or how do we share that with the folks? Because a lot of people I shared it with was like, wow, I hadn't even thought about that. That's amazing. So just curious about that.
Yeah, thanks. Great question. I do believe that that study will be one of the highlights in the 2025 storyboard that we're creating. If you recall, the first storyboard for the 2024 Climate Smart Future Ready update was all electronic format. We're going to do the same thing again, and that will be one of the highlighted reports that will be available and be electronic so folks can read it and dive in more, or just get the highlight piece there. So it will be there. I don't know if it fits in with the strategic plan. We can definitely have that conversation. And
Yeah, I'm
fit it
just
in.
wondering, when we're talking about being good stewards or something, this might be I don't know, I'm trying to think what goal that is, right? I'm just wondering if that fits also into this, to kind of another point of sharing, being good stewards or something like that. I want to know how that fits in there, just curious. So just an idea. Thank you for letting me share. Sorry, Heidi, I was like in my head thinking out loud, oh, this would be cool. Is this connected? So thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. So objective 3 of goal 3 is to develop a sustainable natural environment. And so this team has been making a lot of progress, as you see from the slides here. And so I will turn it over to the objective team leader, Megan Flanagan from our Natural Resources Department.
Okay, thanks, Josh. Good afternoon. And this is one that our first one here is around our land conservation work. And you see this one annually as well as one of our performance metrics. But it might be the first time you're seeing it for 25 altogether. And as you know, one of our metrics is to conserve an additional 24,000 acres between the years 2018 and 2043, which is the life of our current open space sales tax. And as of our baseline, as of the end of 2017, we'd conserved 50,000 acres. And so if you do the math, that 24,000 is about 1,000 acres annually. And when we combine 2018 to 2025, so through the end of last year, we added 14,232 acres to our land conservation portfolio, which is a total of 64,232 acres, which equates to we've about 60% towards meeting that total goal in just our first 8 years of working towards it. So we're really proud of that and excited to share that with you. Last year, 2025 is the 30th anniversary of our open space sales tax, and it was the second largest number of acres we've conserved in a calendar year. So that was a nice way to celebrate that anniversary. The next is, this is a new action that we've added relative to the work the Community Planning and Infrastructure Department is doing to develop a TDR, Transfer of Development Rights program, sort of a 2.0. The county had one back in the early 2000s out at Fossil Creek Reservoir area. And so looking at how we can use this tool to really achieve some conservation, some resiliency around hazards, flooding, wildfire, things like that, outcomes in the county, and potentially incentivize things like affordable housing and wise development and things of that nature. So the status of that is a consultant's been hired. Danielle Rumanis in community planning is the lead on that project, and I know they're making great progress. I sit on the stakeholder group for our department, and the goal is to finish that this fall of 26. All right, and then these next three, I think we shared these last year as just having been added, and some progress has happened in the update of the hazard mitigation plan for the county. This is a FEMA-required 5-year update of a plan, and it kicked off in August. It'll go through, I believe, July of this year, and it's multi-jurisdictional. The intent is really to identify all the hazard-related vulnerabilities of the county and jurisdictions within, and then strategies to mitigate those. The next is our emergency operations staff are working on developing a disaster mitigation network around things like coordinating grant applications, a lot of the work you've seen them doing where they've gotten some grants, and then have a network to help achieve some of these hazard mitigation plan outcomes eventually. And then the last one is also new. On this committee is Max Erickson from the Colorado State Forest Service. And they developed, I believe they rolled it out in 2024, 2025, a forest tracker. That's really cool. If you just Google Colorado State Forest Service Forest Tracker, it's an online mapping program that you can filter by county, statewide, different types of forest restoration treatments that are occurring, and then filter across different years. So as a committee, we pick 10-year intervals. It goes back to the year 2000. They rely on entities, including us, Larimer County Natural Resources, for example, to upload data or send in our data. So it's self-reported from all different agencies across the state. And over these 10-year intervals, you can see the total acreage of, we just chose canopy treatment in Larimer County, and then the pace at which that's been happening. So you can definitely see a jump, almost doubled the pace between the first 10-year interval, 2000 to 2009, and then 2010 to 2019. And then this current years, it only goes through 2023 right now. But in that 4-year period, we're well on track with keeping that same pace. I did a quick look just to see what it looked like statewide and some of our comparable counties, and we're right on par with what a lot of other counties in the state-wide forest treatments are looking like. And I think that's it. I can answer any questions or...
I have some, we'll see if colleagues, do you have questions on this? Commissioner Stevens, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I just want to say this is really great work. There again, just remarkable the amount of work that's being done and the preservation of lands. Yeah, we did have an update on the TDR program at a work session with the Planning Commission, and I think that was really good information. I love that this program kind of accomplishes two goals, one of which is to make sure that growth doesn't happen in areas that we want to protect, and then also, looks out for sort of reducing the hazards, but then it can also maybe create more density and housing in areas that we want to have it. So really, it does kind of cross the natural and built environments, which is really nice. When did you say that the hazard mitigation plan was when will that be complete?
The current schedule shows July of this year. Yeah. The current plan expires in September of '26, so trying to.
And is that something we have to then forward to the federal government to show that we've completed that work? Is that how that works?
I don't know that question. It is a FEMA required project and they're involved, so I suspect so, but maybe someone else knows that.
No, just kind of curious about that. I think that even if it weren't required, it seems like a good idea to do that and to do that kind of surveying and to do that in conjunction with, our partners across the county is really great work. So just look forward to kind of seeing where that's at, because I think that will help us kind of identify, funding strategies and what we need to do going forward with regard to mitigation and other kinds of work. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's all for me. Thank you.
So I'm going to try not to ask too many questions because I work in this space every week. First, I just wanted to say, of course, I'm just thrilled about the amount of acres and the great success. So my first question, two questions in that first action, is if that was the second largest year for the 65 or 6,600, what was the biggest year?
Yeah, great question. The year we conserved the most acres in a calendar year was 2004, and that included our initial acquisition of Red Mountain Open Space, which was 13,500 acres,
What I thought.
and then a large conservation easement in our Blue Mountain Conservation Area called the Blue Mountain Bison Ranch Conservation Easement. That was 4,000 acres.
Cool. So my next question, as you know, with the codex, or is it the codex that does the conservation values and the.
Yes.
And so I think that also kind of connects to maybe some of this work, and is that something we can also show the benefits to the community with carbon capture in our greenhouse? And I don't know if that's another thing to add to that. I'm just curious, because I think that's a lot, people don't know about that or understand that, and that might be something, I mean, that's higher level, but I think it's also still, it's not just about the view sheds and the the diversity and preserving, but there's also a benefit to everyone for the carbon capture and all that stuff. So I'm wondering about that.
Yeah, thank you. We do have that as one of our, I didn't report on all the actions just to keep it to 10 or 15 minutes. But that is one we have. It's also in our climate metrics. And so the data we can pull is a return on investment in ecosystem services by conserving lands. And they did retool Codex a little bit, and that's, I forget what Codex stands for, but if you just type in Codex, you go to the right place. And so they retooled how they calculate that. And so that 64,232 acres equates to $92 million in ecosystem services to the county annually. Those are things like you said, carbon capture, habitat, water and air quality, a whole list of those ecosystem services.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing that. I wondered about that because I'm thinking, and thanks for sharing that's in there, because I do think that's a big number for people to understand. It's really important, I think. So thank you for that. And the transfer of development rights, I know the open lands, we had a planning commission, but we also had that with the open lands. And one thing I shared with the planning commission that I don't know if I got to share with open lands is that when I was in DC for the Fly-In for National Association of Counties, they shared the American Farmland Trust, which is, there's two different organizations there, depends which one, but it has a tool about about development, if there's unchecked or smart growth and versus other things, and there's a tool there, and I know our county is in there, and I just want to make sure I share that and with you. But it's on the farmland.org, but I'll connect with you there. I just want to make sure I show you that, since I showed it to Planning Commission too, because it's a very interesting tool. It kind of figures out how we need to conserve certain areas. So I think that's important. And then
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate you bringing up the Forest Health Tracker, because that's something, as a Forest Health Council, as I'm sitting on that for the state, this is something we've been supporting and pushing out. And I think that's really important. We had talked about the hazard mitigation plan, and that's really important because it looks at all hazards. So I think that's a good, it's not just wildfire, it's flooding and everything, as I understand, right? And so I think one thing about the Forest Health Tracker is that I think it's important to share, and I appreciate the scale and scope. I mean, what we need to do is so immense that is really still not the scale and scope we need to do. But it's only completed projects, and there's so many projects that are on private lands and with our nonprofits, that the health partnership and all the planning and all the ribbon of the potential operation, the delineation, and that all those projects in that ribbon through right almost through the middle of our county. There's so many in progress that are partially done or half done. And I know, so my question is, we have the Forest Health Tracker, but we also have an internal GIS thing that has been developed that's maybe tracking all of it, that we're putting in data, and I know we were supposed to be connecting with them as well, and I don't know if that's still another tool, because it also, I was hoping was going to be taking some of the in-process projects and looking at that as too, because sometimes these take multiple years to get completed, and that's kind of why this might be, a number that is, they're completed, and those are way done, but there's lots that are halfway or in process. And so I'm wondering how that kind of works. And so that's my question. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the complete answer, and I'm looking to Mark Faffinger, who's in the back of the room. This is a Sheriff's Office-sponsored project update to coordinate all of this mitigation work across the region. I think the first layer has been done, and again, I'm looking to Mark to make sure I'm giving you good information. But phase 2, I don't think is underway yet, which would be what is in motion but not yet complete. Here he comes. Good. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark Faffinger, Support Services Director and CIO. Yes, there was a lot of work with on the dashboards for emergency management, and most of the work now is shifting to what we're calling like a monthly sprint of work. So we're working with our GIS partners to evaluate with our new GIS analyst, who's mostly dedicated to public safety support work, to decide what additional data to add to the dashboard, what additional partnerships and data feeds we can add in. And as you can imagine, it's a bit of a moving target as different partners change, which ones have data that's good, which ones are pulling away. And so I'd be happy to try to get an update back to Lorenda on what the status is and what's on our backlog. But I know they have a long backlog of ideas.
I know, and there's just so much useful data, but you're right, it's a moving target, and I appreciate, and I'm sorry to throw you that curveball, but it just seemed, the Forest Health Tracker is a great tool, but it also is looking way in the rear, so I just wanted to kind of quantify that. So I think this is important, and it's we certainly need to, I certainly think we need to increase the pace of treatments, but that's a money issue. So anyway, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And I'm sorry to throw that curveball, but it's something I thought was timely, so thank you. And I think that's, the actions on the network, I think also just looking at what we have with Josh Roberts and all those, I mean, that's really a strong network, so I just wanted to comment on that. So I think that's all I have. Thank you. I could talk all day about this. I got to stop myself, so thanks.
Thank you.
So we are halfway through as we move on to Goal 2, which is about quality of life. The first two sub-objectives or objectives are related to promoting health and well-being of our community, and I am happy to turn it over to our objective team leader, Joe Buckley.
There we go. Yeah, great to be with you all. Thank you for having me. Again, Joe Buckley with the Department of Health and Environment, and I'm going to talk about a few different leaders in our community, as I usually do, giving updates of how us, our health department, UC Health, and the health district kind of work together on this goal for promoting health across the county. So first, from our department, the big fun update is that we've completed 2 years of our 5-year plan, and we celebrate with our annual CHIP event. I'd like to invite you all, everyone here, anyone listening, to come join us. And it's 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. at the Drake Center on February 24th. This year will be special because we're launching and kind of kicking off some work around social prescribing, which is essentially healthcare systems are a main intercept point for people who are otherwise very socially isolated, and prescribing not only medication, but also that social piece, like joining a walking club, getting involved with a local nonprofit that might meet other social determinant needs, is a way we're working across the county to bring healthcare providers into the fold of our really strong nonprofit network. So that's what the morning will center on, is connecting some of those pieces. With that, even UC Health uses a system called Find Help, which providers can use in live time to recommend local community resources, but it needs updated for our county. So we're using space and time in our CHIP meeting when we have everybody there to do some of that updating, and are really looking forward to that morning, not only to get together and celebrate, but to kind of use it as a time and place with lots of good folks in the room to drive it forward. So yeah, that's CHIP. Our second update, though, is related. UC Health has their community needs assessment process that they wrapped up the assessment last year and are now beginning the implementation plans. And so this will be from their kind of kickoff public meeting, happens in April. It's at the Embassy Suites in Loveland from 2 to 3 p.m. And again, anyone is welcome to join. They've highlighted some main priorities around chronic health, mental health, access. And so it fits really well in line with what we're doing in CHIP. So we'll keep partnering with them and stay tuned for kind of how they go about implementation when they announce it then. Yeah. And then our last update from the team is that the health district has 2 pieces. Yay, they wrapped up the Colorado Health Access Survey, where they did some oversampling in our county of using the statewide data and making sure it fit and worked for representing our residents here in Larimer. So you've probably heard about that, but I put the link into our slide deck if you'd like to go to kind of our results that are specific for Larimer. It comes down to some things we're seeing across the state around getting folks healthcare coverage, and especially in this changing landscape. But additionally, to better represent the Red Feather Lakes area, they're going to do a convenience sample survey. And I know, Commissioner Kafalis, you've been working with some of the leaders there to make sure that this survey can get out to as many folks as possible to get a better representative data. So in our way of supporting the health district, we're up there in Red Feather at least once a month, if not more, to make sure that we're hearing from the more rural parts of our county. But that data should fold all in with kind of how we work together, UC Health and Health Department and Health District.
Great.
Cool.
Great news. Colleagues, do you have questions? Commissioner Stevens and Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Appreciate the work that you're doing. With regard to that social prescribing,
Yeah.
I'm really intrigued by that idea, because I actually had a colleague when I went to Harvard that was trying to explore this in the Massachusetts area, of that they would prescribe sort of arts things for people
Yeah.
to attend. So, and they actually had some funding to say that, not only would they be prescribing that maybe you attend a symphony concert or go to
Yes.
an art exhibit, but that there was funding for people who maybe couldn't, afford the cost of admission. And so, as we kind of, it's not bad, because we know how those things improve our mood and improve our well-being, and how that's so essential to, our physical health is, how our mental health is doing. So really like that, we're kind of thinking outside the box in the space. And I mean, I know funding is tight everywhere at this point, but it would be sort of interesting to explore this as a concept of, could we find funding for maybe folks that that can't afford that, but would really benefit from that too. So
Yeah.
I really, I hope we explore this, further, because I mean, there again, creating those connections. I mean, it's hard to be not uplifted when you experience art or music or, poetry or whatever that looks like. It also gets you out of your house and interacting with other people. And so, it would be interesting to see if, the libraries and some of the local arts programs would be sort of interested in, kind of working with us to create something like that, because I think it's a wonderful idea.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. The great news, and I almost forgot to mention it, so thank you for saying funding, is our department has recently accepted a grant from the Colorado Department of Health and Environment to address chronic health. And so we're in this health. But anyways, I'm in charge of that too. So it's right in line with CHIP, and we'll have a lot of overlap with the social piece and how social prescribing or just connectedness in general can also support chronic health prevention and management. So we will have a little more funding and capacity to support these types of projects, and are working on the assessment phase of what community wants right now. But I've already explored things like we've partnered with FC Move and some of their Spanish-speaking women's walking groups to say, like, how are we doing this in safety and together, and addressing health equity as part of what might be a blocker for people to access that. But yeah, I hope to see you at the event if you can make it, because we have 3 panelists presenting of how they're already doing it locally. So one from the VA, Dr. Wallace from NCHA, and then another professor at CSU who does this with folks with Parkinson's. And they've kind of found different funding streams, all of them, but it's nice to kind of build on success, for sure.
I was trying not to jump up and down my chair because this is something that I've been exploring the last few months because I've been thinking about Mental Health Awareness Month, and I've been talking about this with Lorena. I've met some folks who have just written books. Some woman who went on hiked the Colorado Trail as part of her mental health recovery. Someone's nodding if you've heard her speak. I'm working with her, but also there are some examples too in Colorado. There's one at CU Boulder, which is nature based, and so
yes.
I'm looking and speaking with some of our partners in the Estes Valley about doing the healing power of nature as a forum. It's still coming together, but just we should talk.
Count us in. Yes,
And
we would love to partner on that.
Boulder
Yeah.
has it's called the Crown Initiative, and the SE capital S capital E capital D A capital R, and it's basically involved interacting with the outdoors to boost well-being. And it's really silly, but I have some social media things I follow just to kind of boost my mood about, hey, hiking, and look, here's a new trail, and talk about quotes. And I found a thing that combines my love of quotes and my love of nature, my love of hiking, all in one thing that I can look at to boost my mood. Like, and so would love to talk to you about that, because that is happening in other places, and would love to connect. And then also the arts, the Steamboat, my friends at Steamboat shared about this. It's got dance and music and art, and it's really because they have a lot of rural areas up there, and they were trying to bring their community. So that's another, I can try to connect you with those up there. But where I want to see about this is our older population. This is something my daughter and I did with the intergenerational conversations, which there's some of those initiatives we had to give up because I just don't have enough time in the day. With those, connecting with Dr. Martine Carcassonne, we were doing those. And so, which also connects to the social media thing about turning off your phones and connecting. But the older adults, I think, would be a really important group to see if we could really help with that, to get that isolation of older adults, and what does that look like. And you'll see that a lot of youth are really into knitting right now. Even our office, my daughter, everyone. And that's been also happening, is they're going and sitting with older women and older adults and talking and knitting for nonprofit work for either preemies or other things. So there's some stuff that I've been doing, so I would love to just kind of share some ideas. Because I think there's, like you said, blended and braided funding there. So I'm just like, oh, this is so exciting. So I really appreciate this, because I do think as we go through this year, this is really important to make sure people feel that sense of belonging, and doing things together is really one of those things. So thank you. I'm really excited about this one.
I would love all those connections. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So finally, for this particular objective is 1C, which is developing the sequential intercept model. You might remember that there was a large facilitated event that resulted in a report, and now moving on to the next steps, there's going to be a core team and some others sort of doing a facilitated event on how to move forward. And then, so that team will develop a clear mission with goals, action steps based on that report and take it to the larger group. And I believe Emily Humphrey is here to discuss this. Should you have any other questions, or should I got anything wrong? Have got.
Good afternoon, Emily Humphrey, Service Area Director for Community Justice Alternatives. Josh did a wonderful job. Just to piggyback on there, last time we did our work session with you from CJA, we talked about the sequential intercept mapping project and the report that came out. It was 93 pages. It was a lot to process. If you remember, there was 4 major priorities we developed within the SIM mapping, and then they gave us about 9 to 10 actionable items moving forward about gaps and opportunities. And when we looked at it, we thought we can't go with the whole group with all of this findings, and how do we break it down into a palatable way of looking at things and having some low-hanging fruit and some big projects that we can work on. So we actually have a core team that's been working on that. We've added some more folks to it that weren't there originally that we realized were missing from the table. And so we are using Larimer County's facilitation team, specifically Michelle Bird, to meet with that smaller group on March 13th. The goal is to maybe come out with like 4 topic areas that we believe we can make a big impact moving forward on the intersection between criminal justice and behavioral health, and trying to keep folks diverted from penetrating the system more than they need to. And so the hope is that when we go to the meeting, we'll have more direction for these 90 people and actually say, will you be on this committee and you 4 be on this committee, and then have the subject matter experts move forward with the work and then report back to you all. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Colleagues, do you have any questions? I look forward to that.
Thank you, Emily. Moving on to objective 2, which is supporting an equitable economy. As this objective and the work on it has progressed, we've thought of evolving the language around this to be a little more inclusive, if you will. And so one of the items you see here for direction is that we would like to change the title or the wording of this sub-objective to be, or these 2 sub-objectives, 2A and 2B, to really promote an opportunity economy. And then on 2B, to support the development of Northern Colorado's care workforce. And so that's just really, again, updating the language for these 2 particular sub-objectives to what you see there. If you're okay moving forward with that, then for now on all the materials for the strategic plan, you would see this for these 2 particular sub-objectives. And then sort of related under current 2A, promoting an equitable economy. If you remember a couple work sessions ago, the team had talked about creating a vision statement for this. And so this language would also be updated should the language for 2A change as well to what you see there. So I don't know if you have any thoughts about the language or.
Feedback on this? Commissioner Gonzalez? Okay.
Okay.
Commissioner Stevens?
So are you saying that the new vision statement is the language that we see there?
Yes.
Is above that the old language, or we don't have the old language
Yeah.
on the slide to compare?
Yeah, good question. I'm sorry. So the language you see in the first bullet is the new sub-objective language. The vision statement, I don't think we had actually provided any draft language for that. It was kind of in process through last summer. And so this is, and I think I misspoke when I described it. So this is sort of the first draft, if you will, of a vision statement for what would be 2A, promoting an opportunity economy. And Kelsey Baugh, unfortunately, has, from our Economic and Workforce Development Department, who's the objective team leader for this, has fortunately joined me here to discuss it more.
So knowing that, so this is not necessarily version 3 of this. This is just this is the only version that we have of this?
Thanks, Commissioner. So I believe in July of last year, had presented version 1 draft. So this has then updated to meet what the proposed shift of the countywide strategic plan language would be, along with incorporating feedback that we received from our internal strategic committee, as well as 3 different outside strategic committees as well.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm fine with this language. I don't remember what the previous language was, but this language seems to be, encapsulate what we want to do with this objective, so I'm fine with the changes, even though I don't necessarily know what they are. But I like this statement. I feel like it feels comprehensive for the work that we want to do.
Yeah, not knowing what we were coming from, and I remember that other conversation we had, it does feel a positive, inclusive, and trying to encompass all the areas. And so the only other question I have is, and when you say including occupations, childcare, healthcare, and direct care, I appreciate that language. I'm curious what, can you expand, just for me, understanding what direct care encompasses?
Yeah, so often that is referring to in-home care providers. So individuals that aren't necessarily licensed professionals within healthcare, but are providing direct person care in homes.
So there are a lot of invisible caregivers, which are family members, being one of those folks, myself for a long time. I'm curious, is that included in this, or is that, because that's not really, I mean, it is a big economic boost in our community, because they're really worth a lot of money nationally, and I'm wondering, is that also, are you also thinking about those folks too, or is this just the ones who are coming in and maybe taking someone grocery shopping or bringing them groceries and doing that kind of care in the house, and just kind of trying to understand what that encompasses?
Yeah, so as of right now for 2B, the committee is really thinking about for workforce, so hiring into those positions. So we, at the moment, are not considering like
Okay.
family caregivers, as they are not actively applying for said roles. And so further on in the presentation, have some updates there. But for metrics, we're also wanting to acknowledge a lot of the hiring events we do for organizations that are hiring those direct care providers. And so how are we really enhancing the hiring practices, as well as supporting transferable skills that those individuals are gaining in that profession to grow into sustainable living wage jobs?
Spot on. Just really glad to hear that, because it is a growing industry also, and it seems like it's entry level for some younger folks to have a well-paying job, but maybe that's not enough to sustain. But, you know, there's a lot of skills to be learned there, but also, we also need a skilled workforce taking care of those folks. So I think it's kind of the both sides of the coin, I guess, maybe. So I really appreciate your answer there. Thank you. I think that's all I had. So.
Yeah, so what you're seeing here is some feedback we had with the concept of having a countywide vision statement for an opportunity economy, specifically from some of our community members, where that's really exciting that there's this idea of a vision statement. So what? So we have been doing some research around other organizations within Larimer County that have vision statements and the paired goals and metrics that they correlate with those. So we're very much in the brainstorming phase, but wanted to share with you all some examples of goals that we would then recommend to have paired with our opportunity economy vision statement, proving the accountability and commitment to actualizing that purpose. So what you see here, again, just working draft goals. One proposal is that we, Larimer County, really lean on our economic and workforce development team to provide annual or biannual landscape reports that are connecting to economic and labor data, so that we can spread awareness when thinking about how are we supporting small and underrepresented businesses, how are we growing our economy for livable wage jobs. So that could be an inclusive report that is just aware to the public and really condensed in alignment with this strategic goal. Another idea is with our Power the P card movement that we've been having, can we as a county establish our own commitment to what we call the multiplier effect? So what would it look like for us to say we commit to spending within food and beverage purchases X amount with local vendors? That's another recommendation. And last one would be, how are we also having some tracking when it comes to supporting our small business ecosystem? So what kind of data can we report as an established goal as well? So really, again, capitalizing on the experts that are doing this work and creating more information to be transparent, as well as then having those additional goals that we could strive for across our departments. Yeah.
So if I might, I'm just looking at these questions. Can you expand, look back up a little bit as a goal for a county for us to follow through with that? What kind of goal? Because I know we've had goals before where we set up what the old strategic plan, the first one when we came on, and we had a percentage, we're going to do this percentage or reduce it by this percentage, and that got a little tricky. And so I'm just wondering, I'm not saying I'm against, but I'm just wondering from that, what kind of goal you're looking, percentage, numbers, and, I remember those conversations where we had to adjust that, so forgive me, I'm just wondering about that. That's the first thing that popped in my head, so thanks.
One of the good things about, let's say that we decide to only order food from small businesses in Larimer County. We can track that through purchasing. They've done a lot of work with purchasing. We understand who the local vendors are, who the local chains are, and then who are the national chains. And so there are ways, I think, that you all have come up with to really get some good numbers around that. It is a culture change for folks that you get used to ordering from certain places, knowing certain menus, and whenever we do have a meeting with food, we are in routines. And so this will be an effort, a huge internal effort, to make this known. But some departments have already committed. Human Services has already been tracking this for over a year. They were our pilot department, and they've done a great job and not really had trouble with this. So we think this is reasonable. Maybe we start low and we have an escalating scale over a number of years that we reach for. But this feels like a good thing that the county could do.
Awesome. I certainly support that. I just didn't know if we're going to say we have to do 50% of the time, but I like that scalable or ascending. That sounds like something that's doable, and certainly I think the local restaurants, it's just a win-win for everybody. So I appreciate that. Thank you for that, Lorenda. That popped in my head right away when you said that. So thank you for that, and thanks, Josh.
And just to expand on that, I think some of the lessons we learned from prior plans were we would have maybe initially said in the objective that our goal will be 25% of purchasing of food from local business, and then the team had to go try to make that work, whereas this is more bubbling up from the bottom, so this is a much better way to do it.
Thank you, I appreciate that, and thank you I'm glad there's a lot of you here that were part of that historical context, so thank you.
More exciting news. So as I spoke to the Power of the P card, with the new purchasing cards coming out countywide in early March seems to be the timeline. That will also be the launch of our Power of the P card training that we'll have in Absorb. That will be encouraged and or required for new P card recipients to go through and along with Fran and some of those other pieces, so working on the details of that. The training has been designed and finalized for quite some time, so just aligning that with the new rollout. That also means we will be providing a resource landing page. You can see a screenshot of that on the right that essentially has an individual spot on the B board for county employees to be able to access all the resources and services that are elevated throughout that training, such as a single one-page handout of the summary of impact of purchasing to some of the decision trees that have been created for purchasing from local restaurants to best practices for sustainable purchasing, along with conversations of how to connect with your team and or leadership to establish those goals and strategies of how to be aware of your purchasing, and linking back to the strategic plan as well so that they can then track that online piece that Heidi highlighted earlier today. Another update that we will have live on this P card page as well will be the vendor list. And we have been working with our business analysts and IT for a handful of months to create a custom vendor list that will pull from publicly available data for restaurants and catering organizations within Larimer County and the greater northern Colorado with, again, they're custom designing it. It's going to ITSC at the end of February. And the idea there is that all businesses will be provided there, and then it is searchable so that if you are prioritizing a local purchase, if you're prioritizing that there be an online ordering or a capacity of how many folks you would be serving, that there's a multiple different behaviors you can categorize by. So that's also very exciting that that is becoming a reality. So we envision that living within that resource landing page as well, again, accessible for Larimer County employees.
Very exciting. And I'm curious, another example of us building something that we want, but we can't find, and we do it ourselves, and I know we've been letting another county take one of those first iterations of a thing and leasing it. We've got another one that's we're using, and this might be another one, I'm just curious, because I feel like I'm just blown away and so excited to see that work that you're doing, and that saves the county and taxpayers a lot of money, but I'm sure it's a lot of work, but also I think in the long run, we get what we want and what we need, and so I just wanted to commend you all. This is just, I agree, it's super exciting, just amazing stuff. It just blows me away. So, Commissioner Stevens? Nope, Commissioner Cafalas? Great, wonderful, excellent work, great, super excited.
Thank you. I got one more thing for you, maybe two more things, actually. So as we were developing that Power the Peaker training for our employees, we also really acknowledge the importance of how are we educating and informing our business community as well. And so we're in early stages of understanding what, and we're calling an anchor institution training could be. So from food and beverage, but even greater to procurement, almost a how to do business with us as Larimer County. I was just on a call earlier today with somebody from the state that is talking about the G2B push. And so how are we having that government to business and business to government relationship enhanced? So again, early stages with a goal to launch in Q3 or Q4 of this year to have that how to do business with Larimer County and really educating our business partners to set them up for success for procurement processes. An additional piece that came out of 2A is creating what we're calling a language access resource. So just a one-pager that can live on the B board as well, that is elevating resources and services available for translation and interpretation. And then it is elevating our preferred vendors as well as just partner vendors that we use within Larimer County. And the last piece of vision is to be having rolling best practices and spotlight activities and efforts that are occurring within Larimer County. For example, economic and workforce development using the resource called Pocket Talks to be able to have access to 80+ languages when working with clients. That could be a spotlight that is highlighted. We recognize that there were services in the last strategic plan that there is no longer funding or internal services for. So really trying to, again, just elevate the resources that exist within our community.
Again, outstanding. Colleagues, any comments or questions about that? Again, just outstanding, just really aligns with our guiding principles and our values. I'm just thrilled. It's just exciting stuff, so. Okay, let's make it off the hook.
One more.
Okay.
This is for 2B, so going into that care economy portion. There were recommendations that our internal committee was going to lean into, and we have very intentionally reassessed the direction of this, especially with the future HR1 and Medicaid work requirements, along with the 1B that passed in November, that also is assumed to have a component of hiring into childcare positions. So we are connecting with folks within human services, within the county, working on the contract within 1B execution to make sure that we're in alignment with the work that is going there. So no update there, with the biggest update saying we're pausing, we're ensuring that we're aligning with the efforts that are occurring across our region.
Yeah, it seems like that's in flux and ever-changing. Colleagues, do you have any questions about this part? All right, thank you.
Thank you. So the final objective in Goal 2 is improving housing stability. 3A is around inventorying and defining best practices for reentry for justice-involved residents in the community. This is somewhat related to the SIM mapping sub-objective that was discussed earlier. So there will be a landlord liaison who will attend that SIM core group meeting that we just discussed on March 13th. And the incentives for criminal justice involved are active through our housing partners for Larimer County, and thus far, I think 5 instances or cases have been paid out. And then second is participating in the Homeward Alliance strategic plan to address homelessness. I believe that that plan has been completed, and now Homeward Alliance has requested that the county convene implementation of that group. Not that we fund the implementation, but that we kind of act as a convener. And so I believe that first group meeting will be on February 19th. Our objective team leader, Aaliyah Rodriguez, is here to answer any questions should you have them.
I might have a couple colleagues. Do you have a question? Thank you, Aaliyah, for being here. This is exciting to hear about. Obviously, some conditions are changing. I'm curious about the implementation group. Does that include a wide range of geographically of partners? And just wanted to inquire and maybe curious about that.
Yes, thank you. As stated, my name's Leah Rodriguez. I'm the Housing Stability Manager here. And yes, so the plan was put together through partnership with our municipality partners and nonprofits doing the work. And they'll be moving forward with the implementation committee as well. We have representation for people who provide services to unhoused across our system. And we also have representation from our municipality staff as well. We have staff from the city of Fort Collins, staff from the city of Loveland, and we're waiting to hear back from staff from the town of Estes Park.
Great. So if I might expand on that, I was glad to hear about Estes Park. How do we represent, like, I don't hear Berthoud and some of the other areas. I don't know if they have formal, but are we trying to encourage them to also engage, or are they part of this? I don't know if they were part of the plan, but maybe they're important to be in the group. I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, and thank you. That's actually going to be one of the subcommittees that we create out of this. So the implementation committee is the decision-making body. How do we move this strategy forward and reach these goals that were identified? And one of them is broad outreach across the entire county to make sure that we are all focused on the same strategy to improve our system. So one of the subcommittees that is going to be created is going to be focusing in on bringing in our smaller towns, telling them what we're working on and how can you learn from us and us learn from you so that we can implement this together.
Fantastic. Really excited to hear about that, and I'll look forward to hearing some updates. So thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you.
So the final sub-objective under here is coordinating regionally on land use, and this was part of the Climate Smart Future Ready project as well, I believe. And so this is functionally complete and is operational. That housing resource guide that was envisioned by this has been completed. And so finally, we are at Goal 1, Resilient, Equitable, and Engaged Community. The first objective is really around communicating with the public on our progress, both in prior strategic plans and the current strategic plan. And I think we'll have a lot of things related to some of the previous items we talked about, such as, publicizing the performance measures and things like that. So I will turn it over to the objective team leader, Michelle Bird.
Hi, Commissioners. Good afternoon. One thing I kind of wanted to do really quickly is just give a shout out to everyone on this objective team. These are all people that as many on objective teams have other full-time jobs, and they're asked to do a lot, and they've spent a lot of time doing what is sometimes tedious and kind of technical work. Content creation isn't always the most easy thing to do, and so I appreciate them so much in the giving of their time to contribute to this objective. So excited that we finished phase 2 last year. So we're kind of doing our phases by year. But phase 2 was really kind of the collection of content, creation of content. One of the things we did, well, actually, one of the first things we did is we looked at all these different success stories from our previous strategic plans and identified which were the ones that really would resonate the most with the community to start with. And we built out really content and messaging around those 5 stories. Each one of our strategic plan members is kind of a champion of a story, so they're kind of in charge of that story and creating that content and seeing that through. Another big process we did was we identified a vendor to provide the story map. I should back up a little bit. I think you'll probably remember about a year ago, I was updating you on what we had done in phase 1, which was create a campaign, a theme around a campaign, which is momentum and mile markers, which you can see, or I'm sorry, mile markers and momentum, which you can see the badge up there. That was what we did in phase 1, along with developing kind of the messaging, the language we use around it, what the campaign is going to look like, what kind of elements are we developing. So last year was kind of development of those efforts, and exciting for phase 3, which is this year, is we're going to start pushing it out to the community. So our story map, we selected a vendor last year. We're in our final edits of what the story map is going to look like before we make it public. Our work plan has us pushing out that story map in February. So next time I come, I'll be able to show you guys that, and that'll be really exciting. So we've had that vendor on, and they're working on the story map, and we're kind of working on our final edits. And then one thing we did was you see the badge there, we finalized our badge system. So with every kind of, as you know, there needs to be a system for everything. So where do you get badges from? Who gets badges? How do they get on the website? How do they get on physical things? We had to go through, work with facilities, work with our web team to work out those processes about how and when those things happen. So we're really looking forward to phase 3, which is pushing out and kind of seeing the impacts of the work that we've done. In addition to pushing out the story map, this year we're excited. We're going to start working with getting our current strategic plan leaders on board with this campaign and working with them to find out what stories are most impactful to our community, and we're going to highlight through the campaign. We're going to start pushing out media kits to partners. So if there is a campaign story that used a community partner, we're going to work with them so that they can push out the successes that they've contributed to in the community as well, with social media posts and badges. We're really excited to recognize all of the work being done in the community outside of Larimer County as well, because you heard a lot of the objective leaders, they're working with people in the community. And so it's really exciting to get to highlight that, and we're going to start helping them promote the work that they have done. Another thing that we're going to do, we're pretty excited about in our promotion year, is start creating materials that can be sent to community events. So let's say there's a table at a community event in Livermore. We're going to have maybe some flyers or some leave-behinds so people can start to learn about the campaign and the mile markers and momentum campaign and the successes in the community. I'm looking at what else I have on our work plan for the year. Yeah, I think that's all I have, but I'd love some questions.
I have a couple, Commissioner Falls. I'm super excited about this. I think I was last time as well. I am curious. I had talked about, I was thinking back to the pandemic where we had the NOCO Connects, where we had things people could put on businesses or partners put on their front doors, like, hey, we're a mile marker momentum and, badge, showing that maybe people that would help people like, oh, you're partnering with the county. What is that? I don't know what that looks like. So I'm curious, I think maybe you remember me asking about, this would be really cool, someone could have it, the waiting rooms or something, just, just to kind of highlight that for unusual places for
Yeah.
people to see that. And I don't know what that looks like. I can think of businesses that maybe the local businesses that we do P-cards or do a lot of partnering with that. They could put put a badge on their front door. Hey, we're a partner with Larimer County with, I'm just thinking out loud, but I thought I remember mentioning this before because would be cool to see that across the county on businesses and things we partner with in every corner that we do things. I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's the idea of having a physical badge in a business or partner. We didn't have that as part of our media kits, but I love that idea. I think that's a really good idea. We had planned to put a badge with a QR code on kind of the projects that we own. But I love the idea of offering that to partners who are willing to display it, as well as, I'm going to make a note of that. I think that's a great idea. We are planning to give them like a virtual badge that they are welcome to put on their websites as well, that would link back to the story map. So I love the idea of like a physical one in our partners. Like it's a way to showcase them and the work they're doing. I love that.
Because, you walk in a restaurant and you see maybe a TripAdvisor badge or this badge.
Exactly,
or this badge.
yeah.
And I thought, well, this is,
I love that idea.
I would love it to be able to walk in.
I
Some of my
yeah, I
favorite
agree. I
locals.
think-
So I'm really excited about this, and I also think it just helps it shows, builds connection because our partners see that we value them, that we're developing this chance to promote them as well. And so I'm excited about that. And I can even see the school districts having one too. I mean, I'm just saying, I just think
Yeah.
it's a great idea. Not my idea, but your idea about how we do the
Yeah,
virtual,
no.
and I'm glad to hear about the QR code. That's great.
Yeah.
Really innovative idea. I know this is probably such a monster of ideas to pull and create content. There's probably 1,000 stories we could tell, and that's,
Literally 1,000.
I know that sounds, but I think there's probably more than 1,000.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a really cool way to continually have. I mean, there's no lack of stories and content, so I'm sure this will be something that could be sustainable for a long time. So,
And that's one of the things we're excited about when we developed the campaign, is that we're excited it was bigger than just the strategic plan, and it could be something that we celebrate the successes of the strategic plan, but the other successes that the county has as well. So we're really excited too. Thank you. Yeah.
so colleagues, I didn't see any hands, so I just want to make sure. No, okay, that's great. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, commissioners. Oh,
Thank you, Michelle. So moving on to objective 2, which is around improving accessibility to the county. The first sub-objective, improving engagement with the community through a single platform. That project has not yet started, and we envision hopefully starting that here sometime soon. But 2B, which is evaluating legacy systems to ensure compliance with accessibility laws. Our objective team leader, Mackenzie Lowe, is here to describe that.
Good afternoon. I know it's been a long time sitting here and waiting and listening, but I'm Mackenzie Lowe. I'm the ADA coordinator for the county with risk management. So as Josh said, A hasn't started yet. Hopefully it'll start soon. 2B is a lot. It's a giant monster. However, there's been a lot of successes recently. And while it is a giant monster, and like taking little pieces of it is how we're tackling it. One of those is that training materials. It's a lot bigger chunk than, we thought initially. So it takes a bit, but hopefully those will be rolling out here in Q2 and Q3 in particular. I'm looking forward to them. And the thing that, even during this meeting, I've been watching this, our website compliance and digital compliance in general, consistently for the last 6 months, and even during this meeting, has stayed above 90% compliance, which is kind of unheard of, and very much above expectations. I'm very happy and proud of it. And then something that is to help internal to help all of our employees and everyone is this new thing called a VPAT tracker, or repository as we are currently calling it. Essentially, a VPAT is a voluntary product accessibility tracker that, hold on, let me grab the actual thing. That a supplier or like a software engineer, that they voluntarily fill out, and basically it gives the public and those who are and buyers like an idea of how accessible it is compared to like for everybody. So it's voluntary. Not everybody gives them to us, but just about everyone we've asked and work with currently has supplied them. And we're trying to put them in one location that employees can access so that they know where it stands, have a good idea of like, oh, we already have this, just to make it more accessible for our employees. But then the benefit is to the community of more accessible products and easier for everybody. So. And our last one, this is huge, just went live very recently, this Equidocs. It's for remediating PDFs, which will help a ton in keeping us consistently in that 90% permanently. So just rolled out. It's very user-friendly and much faster than a previous one we tried. So I'm very excited about it. So any questions?
Colleagues, Commissioner Stevens?
Yeah, thanks, Mackenzie. So is the goal ever to get to 100%, or that feels almost impossible? And so are we penalized if we go under a certain percentage? Can you sort of remind me, as we only really revisit this
I know.
quarterly? I kind of forget.
That's okay. The goal is to be consistent, and 100, it's percent is honestly, it's unrealistic. And so for us, it's just consistency is basically our goal. And not everything can be 100% as of right now. There's a lot of things that are like technology. There's a lot of restraints on technology. Like it hasn't been developed yet, or we're not quite there. So there's no real penalty for that. The penalty is not doing nothing.
Okay, so as long as we're making movement towards that, then we're good.
Then
I
we're
think,
good.
I mean, above 90% sounds good. That's an A in my book.
Right?
And I'm glad we found something to make the PDFs accessible, because to not have I mean, it's unrealistic to not use that tool. I mean, it's just so commonly used. So I'm glad we found a tool that works well. And I just appreciate all your efforts in this. This is such an ongoing, I mean, I can't imagine how challenging this is to do this. So I really appreciate the work that we're doing. And, there again, it's not just to be in compliance, but it's to fully provide, equal services to community members that might have, impairments that, restrict their ability to get information from the county website. So, bravo, thanks.
Commissioner Kafals, any questions? I'm going to build off Commissioner Stevens' comment, because I had the same question. We know there's the state law, and I don't remember what number it was, but you're saying it's just doing something. But I think the conversations with other counties is they thought they had to have everything, and then people were pulling information off, and so they didn't have to. And we didn't want to we want to stay transparent and provide services. So first question is 90%, is that going, since you found the PDF accessible thing, is that a goal that you think is long-term sustainable, or it might dip and change, or because that's really remarkable, but I'm just curious about that going forward.
Yeah. The goal is, like I said, consistency. And as tools and things evolve, it's going to go up and down. But the goal is to try and stay consistently like above government average, which is 84.3%. So like our goal is to just stay above that as much as we can. And it's all of this, you can actually find it on any of the public websites. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's a link that says accessibility. And then in there, About halfway down, there's a button that will take you to the real live metrics. And this changes every time anybody who's a web editor updates this page. So it will go up and down. And that House bill, it's 1110. And basically, a lot of people, when it first came out, it was like, oh, we have to be 100% compliant. And it's not true. Honestly, the goal is for that transparency in particular of like, yes, realistically, we're aiming for a very high percentage of compliance. But when you factor in the reality and the human side and what's available currently, it's not possible. So that's why consistency.
Yeah, I appreciate that because it's a common conversation, especially we hear from smaller counties how this is just maybe insurmountable. And so I'm going to ask my other question because I see you're ready to hear, but I think it's connected, and maybe you can chime in on that one too. But do we know? Have we heard from the state? Is there the compliance persons who are commenting on progress or not? Have we heard of anyone getting comments or feedback from this implementation? I'm just curious because, like I said, as county commissioners, we go conferences. This is one of the topics that's still buzzing. And it's nice to hear some of this information that's really kind of the nitty gritty that we're trying to get to. And it sounds a little more achievable hearing from you. And so I hope I hear where I'm going. I'm just curious about what does this look really like in implementing? Thank you.
Yeah, I can tell you that actually the state uses our thing as an example of how to do good across the entire state. We are highly recognized for it. They're always contacting me going, how do you actually do this? What did you do?
This is Mark Pfaffinger again, CIO. I think, this goes back to the law was passed, which had things like $3,500 penalty per violation of a specific product that wasn't accessible. If there was a lawsuit filed and it went through state court, and a lot of that really isn't defined very well, how you actually do that. And so what happened was it turned into a rules-making process where they formed in the OIT office of the state, tried to put together some rules around this to make it actually implementable. So a lot of this, the rules allow you to have a little bit of leeway as you're working towards remediation. And as long as you have a plan, and as long as you have, or there's a significant monetary impact to the community around remediating something, there's ways to sort of delay or expand on the ability to remediate. So a lot of this stuff takes a while. Maybe you have to wait till the next replacement of a specific software platform, as an example. And those are reasonable plans as long as you have them documented, which we've done a good job of. And so kudos to the team. The other thing I'll mention about our compliance number, that number specifically ranks our website. So I don't want to overstate our 95% number. That's the highest point of contact with our community. So we're really proud of that. We have a lot of remediation issues with internal software, a lot of things we've written ourselves, and that's going to take many years to keep working through.
Can I add also to that, Mark? You could take a compliance approach to this, or you could take a person approach to this. And so what this team has done is they've looked at the kind of things that people do at the county and tried to address those first. And so there are maybe obscure things that will be last on the list, but they really are trying to make this accessible for the people who want to do business with Larimer County, not just meet the requirement of the law, because that is a lot lower than the bar they've set for themselves, this team has set. So I really applaud the effort. I know it is one slide in a presentation, and it is several years' worth of work already for where we are. So great job with the focus you have, and the way that you've instilled that in the departments across the county is really important, because I think it speaks to the heart of who we are as an organization.
Thank you for adding that. That was exactly what I was getting ready to say. I'm feeling like this needs to be spotlighted because I think that approach about how we serve our residents aligns with the strategic plan, our guiding principles, and doing that and taking that approach is how you have gone above and beyond. And certainly, I think this is outstanding work and really important work, and maybe more than we realize. And so I really would like to see us maybe toot our horns, and maybe this is something we share at a county commissioner conference to help others understand, because we have still a lot of folks that maybe just don't understand this is maybe something you can do and not so insurmountable, and so they don't pull things off their website. Just adding that, but tremendous work, absolutely outstanding, and thank you all for sharing this today. I'm loving this work session today. I'm just so excited. I can't wait to go tell all these people about all these things. It's just so exciting. So thank you. Great work. Really great work.
Thank you both. And finally, goal 1, objective 3 is maximizing partner relationships. There are several sub-objectives to this, and we'll highlight 2 today. The first is serving as a regional convener. At the last meeting, Ricardo Perez from our Office of Emergency Management discussed a regional resilience effort that's going to be taking place here, and the discussion was around using this objective team to provide feedback and help kind of direct that effort. And then the second 3B, connecting the local nonprofit sector in the county to align and support legislative priorities. We've reported, I think, at the last work session about advocacy training for nonprofits here in the community. There was a virtual version of that recently, and representatives from 26 organizations or 26 individuals attended anyway. As a result, the United Way of Larimer County is now holding regular meetings with their co-located nonprofits to help kind of build off of what was learned there. And we are working on putting together a bill tracker for nonprofits to use for items that come up that they may be interested in or impacted by. So.
This is very exciting as well, and kind of connects with the conversation I had earlier with you today about that. So really timely, very serendipitous. This is really important. And colleagues, I'm looking, I don't see hands, but I think this is really important, especially right now as we come through 2025 and we see these changes from resources from the federal, state government. And I'm really glad this is here, because I think this is really important, more now than ever. So really glad to see this is happening. Thank you. Lorena, do you want to add anything to that?
I think nonprofits are our partners in the community. We are all layers of a service network. And we know that funding is getting more difficult for us, and it's certainly getting more difficult for nonprofits. So if they can pool their time and resources in any way, we want to be a support network for that, because they're very important to us.
Yep, really important. Thank you. All right. Well, this is Josh, next thing. And
Sure. So just some next steps. So all of the dashboards, and Heidi showed you a version of that on our website showing the progress of all of these sub-objectives and objectives. They are up to date with the most recent information, so that is available on our website. Our next work session will be in April, reporting on progress made during the first quarter of this year. And I'll just add one thing I didn't put on here, which is I've been attending meetings of the JEDI Coalition to sort of show them the progress that we've made. We brought in, either one individual objective team leader who's walked through things, or else I've just kind of given them an update. And starting to come up with some ideas for when we put the next version of the strategic plan together that would start in 2029, which shockingly isn't all that far away. So I just wanted to say we're kind of learning some lessons, maybe especially about how to get input into the plan from a broader cross-section of the community. So that is the end of the presentation, and happy to answer any questions. Should you have them?
I don't know if I have more questions. I've asked a lot of questions, but colleagues, I'll start with Commissioner Foss. Any questions, comments? Commissioner Stevens?
Well, yeah, thanks for the work. This is, it was very comprehensive, a lot of great work being done, and I think it's good to communicate to the public as they helped us with the plan. We need to make sure that we're responding and letting them know where we're at. So I think that remarkable work has been done. I guess 2029 isn't that far away, although it feels far away. But I think the work that we've done thus far is really impressive. And so really kudos to everybody for kind of thinking outside the box and kind of renewing or refreshing things as the environment changes. You know, we saw that in the space of, you know, the effects of HR1 and so really being responsive to current situations, knowing that it's a fairly volatile and dynamic environment right now, I think is really important. So very much a living document and happy to have the update.
I just enjoyed this so much today. I'm so proud of our staff and our innovations in our county and the work that we're doing. And it's so nice to have this remind us of all the things that are happening in the teams. I want to first thank all of you. This is always duties above assignment, and you guys are already, I know your plates are already full. And all the staff that are doing this, tremendous work. I wish everybody in the public heard this presentation today. It was so exciting for me. But also, I want to make sure our partners that are not, we have some partners we have engaged this time. I hope that maybe they get to see this and maybe get to hear this and know how much this is all coming together. I don't know if that's something we could do, just send them out. I think it'd be cool for them to also see the whole comprehensive thing. And the reason, but I want to thank them too. So I'd like to express, you know, our gratitude that this is amazing, tremendous work, especially in these times and dates where we're reacting to everything. This feels like we're really getting ahead of, this is one area where we're able to get ahead and maybe plan for how we transform it to meet these new changing conditions. And obviously this gives me a lot of hope and a lot of excitement. And I think a lot of people are looking for that. So I just want to say thank you for that. Thank you for all these awesome things that you all are doing. It's why I love our county and love this job and love our staff are just amazing folks. You guys just blow me away. And I wanted, when Commissioner Stevens, I was thinking the same thing. When we start talking about already engaging on the next plan and we had that last plan, and I know we're running out of time, but I think about that meeting we had with all the leaders at the ranch. We had invited 200, we had over 100. And a lot of them were saying, oh, we should do this and this, but there was things we were already doing, and obviously they didn't know. And so it'd be nice to send some of this to the group that was there and kind of maybe even update them. Just kind of like, hey, here's some cool things that are already happening and show the deep dashboards. So they can see, not at the end, but in the middle, that, hey, this is progress. So they can maybe understand that they were part of something that is really coming together. I'm just an idea because I think it's important for us to share. They might need hope and excitement too right now. And I already envision I may not be here, I may be here, but when we engage that community for the next strategic plan, that you guys showcase all this stuff and we say, you got this feedback and this is what happened. And look at all these things, look at these dashboards, and now what? So I see a story coming, and I just want to commend you all for a fantastic job, well done, and just amazing stuff. Thank you for ending the day this way. This is really exciting to hear this, and I'm just want my heartfelt gratitude. Just well done, Lorinda. Last word.
I guess I'll say there is a strategic plan page on larimer.gov. If you go to larimer.gov and you type in the subject line strategic plan, the first thing that pops up is this dashboard. So what they do is they pick and choose some things to talk about because you can't talk about the whole thing every time. But if folks are interested in seeing more of the initiatives, they should go to that page, larimer.gov, and just type in strategic plan.
Well, thanks for that reminder, because I've kind of have fallen off my radar the last few months, so this was really exciting. Well, thank you all, and have a great day. It is 3:23, and we are adjourned, and I wish you all well. Have a great rest of your week.